And now we have The Voice. And Anthony Albanese recruits an American basketball legend to talk about a referendum on the Indigenous voice to Parliament. Malcolm Turnbull has changed his mind, but he did say in 2017 when he was the Prime Minister that his government, quote, does not believe such an addition to our national representative institutions is either desirable or capable of winning acceptance in a referendum. Unquote. Mr Turnbull said it was, quote, contrary to the principles of equality and citizenship, unquote. And while now he's saying he'll vote yes, he also said, quote, I will do so with some misgivings. There are powerful and legitimate arguments against it, unquote. So, was O'Neill, the basketball player, supporting this constitutional change? He was with Prime Minister Albanese. The press conference lasted 20 seconds. And all O'Neill said was, whatever you need from me, just let me know, unquote. And then he wandered off. He didn't mention The Voice, a referendum, or anything related to both. Even Lydia Thorpe described the recruiting of O'Neill as insulting. All of this because the public know nothing about it, except that it changes society and changes democracy. All we're told, no detail, is that this is a legacy-defining project. In other words, feel guilty if you oppose it. And the Prime Minister tells us that Australians from all walks of life, in every part of the country, from every faith, background and tradition, should embrace this reform, quote, because it speaks to values that we all share and honour, fairness, respect and decency. Pardon me, that is absolute nonsense. The referendum would be, he said, an important step in the journey of healing. Healing what? Who is healing the damage done that Jacinta Price has talked about to Indigenous Australians in the Northern Territory? This will do nothing for them. We already have 11 Indigenous voices in the National Parliament. Are we now being asked to support a race-based body to or in the Parliament which would change our system of government? Now, one of them won't tell us what the voice to Parliament would look like, but if an Indigenous woman like Jacinta Price, who's lived amongst all the violence against women and children in the Northern Territory, if she says this proposal would do more harm than good, do we listen to Jacinta Price or Anthony Albanese? So, welcome to country, which the historian Keith Windshuttle rightly says 2 decades ago this ritual was unknown. And he rightly says it was introduced without public debate, let alone public support. Then there's $30 billion a year, $30,000 million to close the gap. But every year the gap stays open. And now The Voice. Where does this end? Well, I'll tell you something. Unless we wake up, it won't. Because we are building the view amongst all Australians, and especially the young, that we don't belong here. We're invaders. We only come if we're welcomed. And that breeds the view amongst militant activists that any demand based on that principle is legitimate. The latest is this meaningless symbolism of voice to the Parliament, about which we know nothing. And speaking of nothing, nothing will be achieved by it. These campaigns will go on until we stand up and say we won't cop the great reset of Australian values and Australian society.